Happy Wednesday. You're tuned in to Alicyn's Wonderland, and I'm your host, Alicyn. Thanks to everybody that's jumping on and joining live. I hope you enjoyed that little throwback to the Looney Tunes theme song. It was definitely bringing back some childhood memories for me. Hey, Tasker. Hi, Chloe. Thanks for joining. What's up, Chris? Always good to see you in here. Thanks so much for tuning in live, you guys. Really special guest tonight. I'm super excited. We have Bob Bergen going to be on the show. Bob is Emmy nominated, Annie nominated, Behind the Voice Actors nominated. Bob has been in the voice acting business for 40 plus years. Don't do the math. He started when he was a wee little one. But we're so excited to have him on the show today. Yes, Chris, that was the Merry Melodies Looney Tunes theme song. So we're so excited to have Bob on the show today. If you guys have any questions, Bob needs to upgrade the app actually in order to join. Let me give Bob a quick text. I've never had that one come up. So let's see if we can figure this out. How are you guys doing? You guys, give me some hearts if you're tuned in for the very first time. If you've never been on the show, go ahead and give me some hearts. Let's see. Oh, I guess we have a lot of repeat people. Maybe I should have asked the opposite question. If you've been in this show before and you've loved it, then give some hearts. Hey, 420 Comic. Long time no see. I don't think I've seen you in like a decade. I hope everything's going good. So let me text. Okay, he's got it. Guys, see, that's what somebody like Bob is just obviously so amazingly on it. Hey, Cjo. Hey, Wiro. Hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you for joining. I'm doing good. For any of you guys that have not checked out the show yet, Alicyn's Wonderland is, it started as a podcast. Actually, it started as a web series in 11 years ago, so I think it was 2009. It was a web series. Then we rebooted it as a podcast. And when I say we, I mean me, myself, and I. We rebooted it as a podcast. And now it's back as an IGTV show. So I hope that you like it. If this is your first time, go ahead and make sure to subscribe. You guys, please welcome Bob Bergen. Hey, baby.
Oh, my God. I felt so bad. I'm not up.
No, you're perfect.
Is it working?
You know, that's, now we live, we learn. You're perfect. I'm just trying to
hang on. I can angle this down or something because that's just like, I can't tell. I can't. Is there me? There's you. There's you. There's me.
So you have the cutest dimple. Are you a one dimpler like I am?
No,
or are you
a two-er. I'm a
You're
two-er.
a two-er?
They used to both completely show. Well, I also haven't shaved for a few days. But it's becoming a line as I get older. And I kind of know what my future is going to be because I've seen John Davidson at 80-something, and it's not pretty.
I thought you meant you knew what your future was going to be because, like, instead of reading your palm, someone just read your cheek.
Oh, yeah. If that's a lifeline, I got a ways to go.
You've got
my cousin Alicyn Hammer is on, and she is a fabulous author. Everybody look her up, and I'm excited to see her because I never know who I'm in touch with, that you're in touch with, that we're all connected with that does this. So that's very cool.
It's pretty amazing. You know, the great thing is because we interview different people every episode, we get new viewers every time. So for anybody that's just joining, this is Alicyn's Wonderland, and we interview people that work in animation and video games. And for anyone that doesn't know who this lovely man is, I gave you a nice intro. Hi, Bob. We're like connected. But it's so good to see your face. Actually, I had a coaching session with Bob this week because not only is Bob an amazing voice actor, but he's also one of the finest animation voiceover coaches that I know. So I want to invite you guys, if you have questions, we'll try and get to them at the end. I see that some questions are coming in on the main line. Go ahead, at the bottom of our screen, there's a button with a question mark in it. Go ahead and put them in there instead. That way we won't lose them. And thanks to everybody that's joining. Bob.
By the way, I do have to correct you a little bit.
What?
This much. It's not quite 40 years yet.
Okay.
I'm 82 was when I got my first job. So I'm close. I'm very close, but not quite 40. But I started studying voiceover 43 years ago.
43 years ago?
70, is that, wait, 78, 43? No, I can't do math. Yeah, it is. It's 2000, because we lost the COVID year. We lost a COVID year, so it's hard to do math, but yeah, yeah.
I think we need to have a party then, an anniversary party.
Yeah, but let's wait till it's not on Zoom.
Yeah, let's do it in real.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you moved to LA when you were 14 years old because your family relocated here. And I was just curious, at that time, did you know you wanted to be an actor?
Oh, I knew I wanted to be Porky Pig. I mean, I knew that when I was a little boy. And, you know, when you're in junior high and your dad sits you down with your sister and says, kids, I'm taking a job out of town, we're moving. Usually kids don't want that. Yeah. And I'm like, well, where's your job? And he said, Los Angeles. And I'm like, okay, Dad, don't tease me. Don't lie to me. And for about 6 months, he was commuting back and forth. My mom, bless her heart, closed down the house and packed everything up. And he was already working in Los Angeles, kind of coming back and forth. But he would come back home in between trips. And I would tell him, rip out pages in the yellow pages that say cartoon or animation and he did. And I had, you know, the phone numbers of Hanna-Barbera and Filmation.
Wow.
And so I was just starting to collect my little resources.
That's amazing. I mean, to have that kind of insight. I mean, and was that just from a love of watching television?
It's interesting, you know, when you're a little kid, you don't know I want to be Porky Pig means anything vocationally.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I loved cartoons. I loved the Looney Tunes. I loved the old black and white Fleischer Popeye cartoons. I loved Underdog. I just loved all things animation. And I also like to draw. If people see my Instagram page, I found a whole bunch of cartoons I used to draw when I was a kid and posted them. And I was like, I don't know if I want to be a cartoonist or do voices for cartoons or both. I didn't have the patience to learn art and to learn perspective. But I had the patience to learn how to be an actor, and that's where I really fell in love with the industry. So we moved to LA, and I just called basically Hanna-Barbera and said, where do I go? And they recommended Dawes Butler, and I studied with anybody that offered a voiceover class. Back then, they wouldn't hire you if you were under 18. Today, they will. Today, they insist on it. But back then, they wouldn't. So I was just studying.
And so it sounds like, I mean, Nancy Cartwright studied with Dawes Butler. I think Katie Lee. It seems like everybody who started working, you know, around that time. Was it just like did it later become a who's who of animation?
Yeah,
was anything in your class?
I had a session today with Bill Farmer, and we both studied with Dawes. But you know what was really cool about this, Alicyn? It wasn't just people looking to get into the business. June Foray would stop by to work out. Penny Singleton, who was Jane Jetson, would stop by to work out. Lucille Bliss, who was Smurfette, would stop by to work out. This was a place, and Dawes taught, he was $10 or a handshake, whatever you had that week. And it was a place for people, and he wrote all the scripts, and he never, ever talked about the voice or how to create voices or how to sustain voices. For him, it was all about the acting. And you know, can I talk about working with you this week?
Sure.
Because, you know, you and I were working on a couple of scripts, and once you got into it physically, it worked vocally. But that's everybody that works in animation. And this was a Dawes Butler mantra. If you physically play the character, the voice will follow. So, you know, what I do in my class is, I can't say it's a continuation of Dawes, because there was only one Dawes, and he was just a sweetheart of a genius. But a lot of what he taught, I continue on today.
You know, it's so interesting because when I first moved to town, I remember reading one of his books, and I've, as of late, only found it as an audio book. Am I doing something wrong? Do you know which book I'm talking about?
No, I didn't even know he wrote a book.
Somebody else, Chris, I think, had just mentioned it as well. Joe Bev's Dawes Butler book.
Oh, Joe Bev. Okay,
so maybe that's different. I think he also has an audio book.
Yeah, Joe Bev took, I think, a lot of Dawes Butler's scripts and compiled them, and I think Joe Bev did the audio book.
Okay.
But you know, all of Dawes's scripts were written by him, and his whole thing was about listening and acting and reacting, which I think Dawes would find it difficult today, because he comes from the world of radio and ensemble recording. And even before COVID, we were recording solo for so many projects. I think he would have had a difficult time not having his fellow castmates there to work off of.
Yeah, I mean, that is sort of one of the greatest challenges of these days, is hoping your co-star made the same choice as you did.
Yeah.
It always seems to come together, though. Um, yeah, so how did Dawes suggest, and how is this translated into how you prepare for an audition?
There's so many answers to this that go beyond studying with Dawes Butler. I mean, I spent 2 years at a Meisner Conservatory, 3 years at the Groundlings. I studied voiceover with so many other voiceover instructors. But, to simplify it, you look at the script, there's a picture, there's a description, there's dialogue. Based on all that information, you come up with a character. The voice is only one part of the character. In fact, you have to work harder for your audition than you ever will for the job, because when you get the job, they're going to peel back a bunch of your layers of creativity. It was your choices and your creativity that got you in the room. But, you look at that information and you've got lines. If you're lucky to get a full script where you can actually have your other scene partners' lines to work off of, and the exposition, the story, that's helpful. But a lot of times it's just wild lines.
Sometimes no picture.
Correct. And whatever information is missing, that comes from here. So 80% of the animation audition is in the imagination. You have to think and make those choices. Who am I talking to? What is our relationship? Where are we? The microphone is the ear of your scene partner. Where you are on mic from scene to scene corresponds with where you think these characters are in your imagination. So in the first scene, if you think, well, these characters are just sitting side by side having a conversation, perhaps at a Starbucks. And the next scene, they're running for their airplane through the airport because they're late. Your energy is going to be different. Where you are on mic is going to be different. Perhaps you're frustrated with your scene partner because in your mind, the backstory is they forgot the tickets. Now, that information may not be in the script.
Yeah.
But by taking that limited information and adding layers of choices, subtext, that may not even come through completely in your read, but what comes through is the choice that you're making as an actor that's interesting. That choice gets you the callback. That choice gets you the job. But the only bad choice an actor can make is to not make one.
Yeah, and sometimes that is sort of probably, not making enough choices is the default, because if the information's not provided, it's more risky to make a bold choice. So, making some choice can make you stand out more than making no choice.
But you got to be bold. You got to take risks.
Yeah.
There's man, I take major risks when I audition. In fact, my agent, oftentimes, we talked about this, I think, in our last coaching session. I'll do 2 or 3 takes. And the second or third take will be the risky ones. And every once in a while, my agent will swap them and have the buyer, the listener, the casting director hear the riskiest of the takes first, because everyone's going to be safe.
Yeah.
But I like to honor and respect the writer on take 1. That doesn't mean I'm not creative, but I like to, I respect that it took a lot of layers and years to get of approval to get to this point to get me the audition. So I want to honor and respect that, still being creative, but I'm going to be real risky on take 2 and very risky if there's a take 3. I said free. Oh my God, like I'm 3 years old. Take free.
Take free. Hey, everybody, take free. I think that's all amazing information. It's the physicalizing, the making sure you're making a bold choice, informing, using the script and the thing to inform. Do you just roll on your first take? Like after you've done all your prep work, you just...
I record everything. I push record. So my computer is not in my booth. So my computer's right here. My booth is over there. I push record. I go into my booth and I just start. Sometimes magic happens without a lot of preparation.
Yeah.
I rehearse on tape. I create on tape. I might go through the entire thing, come out and listen to that first line and go, oh boy, did I miss a big story point. Okay, and go back in, but it's still rolling. You know,
Yeah.
I'm still going. Sometimes I'll do Frankenstein edits and take,
Mm-hmm.
you know, take one of the first one, take 6 of the second one, and put it all together. But self-directing for the voice actor is not while you're acting. Self-directing is while you're editing. If you're
Yeah.
self-directing while you're acting, you're in your head and you're not committing to your acting choices.
Yeah. Lately I've been doing like I'll give it a pass and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
sleep on it. And that's kind of fun too, because then it's pretty, like I can hear the next day, oh yeah, that was close. Or you know what? I know what that thing is. I can feel it, you know, and so I think that's been kind of a fun,
Well, you
different
know what?
thing.
Walking away from it and coming back is really, I think, cathartic. You know, oftentimes you're like, oh my God, why was I having such a brain fart that first round? I totally have creative ideas now. There have been times where I'm looking at an audition, I'm like, I'm so not this. I don't know why my agent sent this. In fact, I'll even call her and say, why did you send me this? And her response will always be, because they don't know what they want. Make it your own.
Make it
I
your
mean,
own, baby.
which means ignore the specs. Ignore the specs. If they're asking for James Earl Jones, I ain't going to be that. So I'm going to make it what I can. It was sent to me for a reason. Look, sometimes my agent has a conversation with the casting director or the producer, and they admit, we don't know what we want.
Yeah.
Send some people outside the box. And sometimes my agent will send it to people who are outside the box on their own, just to send it to people. So they're listening to the same old, same old, same old. Ooh, this is why people who do voiceover will hear it on the air and they'll go, that's not what they were asking for. Well, someone took a risk or someone just thought outside the box and they liked it.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. Um, so I'm curious. I mean, obviously, people probably have you talk about Porky till you're blue in the face, but I just think it's such an interesting story and such a story of manifestation that you literally came to Hollywood and were like, I'm going to be Porky Pig. And at that time, that job wasn't available.
Yeah, well, okay. I'm also 14 years old and don't
Right.
understand the concept of a job not being available. I mean, I just figure I'm going to call Mel Blanc and say, look, dude, I've seen you on TV. By the way, Jared Hewitt is on, and I just want to say hi, buddy. So I'm seeing people I know, and this is so exciting. And he was a
Yeah.
former student of mine, a brilliant voiceover actor, and just a lovely, lovely, sweet guy. And just, guys,
Aw.
Google him, because if you ever need some kind of foundation and spiritual advice, I'm telling you right now, he's a good guy to go to. I just, I didn't know what I was doing was gutsy. I didn't know what I was doing was unusual. I just called Mel Blanc. I crashed a recording session. And then I
Is that
started
the one where
studying.
you showed up as somebody's assistant?
Well, what happened was, okay, so I've told the story a million times. I'll try to make it quick. But I called him. I found his number in the phone book, in lots of phone books. I called him up. I taped the conversation. It's on my website. It's illegal to do, but it's there. It's been 40 years. It's okay. During the course of the conversation, he mentioned the name of the studio he was working at that week. He didn't say the day or the time, just the name of the studio. So when I was done talking to him, I called that studio pretending to be his assistant. And I said, hi. And I completely made up the entire thing. Hi, I'm calling to confirm Mr. Blank's appointment for Thursday at 9. And they said, well, we've got him on the books for Wednesday at 11. I went, oh, I'm looking at the wrong calendar day. I'm so sorry. Yep, it is Wednesday at 11. We will be there Wednesday at 11. So I told my mom I'm skipping school on Wednesday and we're going to go watch Mel Blanc. And she said, cool. So when we got to the studio, I told the receptionist when we walked in, hi, we're guests of Mel Blanc. He said we could watch. And she said, oh, great. He's in that room over there. And when I walked into that room over there, I said to his producer, hi, we're really good friends of the receptionist. And she said we could watch. And the producer said, sure, have a seat. And I got to watch him.
And that, folks, is how it's done.
Well, that, folks, is balls. But I mean, or stalking. But the bottom line is I didn't think I was doing anything unusual. I really didn't.
There is really something to be said about youth and taking risks. I think that was like copying an audition today or something. But like when you have that spirit of like anything is possible, you don't know what failure feels like yet, and so you're bolder.
I think you know what happens? I think we become adults.
Ugh.
And all of a sudden we get this overwhelming sense of, I can't do that. I'll look stupid. I shouldn't do that. That's wrong. You know what? When you're a kid, you eat dirt, okay? When you're a kid, you take major risks. When you're a kid and you're playing G.I. Joe or Barbie, or you're flying a Lego Star Wars piece, in your mind, those are real. And what happens is, with adulthood comes reality and shame and pride, and it's just scary. And I've never cared. I've never cared what anybody thinks of me. I've never cared if I look like an idiot. I've never cared if I fail. I just know that if I've always lived my life where, when I'm 100 and whatever, and I'm on my deathbed, and it will be 100 and whatever, because I planned that, I just know that regret is worse than failure. That if I look back on my life and I go, God, I never tried blah, 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 that would be devastating. But if I go, I tried, I didn't get to where I wanted to, but I am so grateful that I tried. And there's never a deadline. This thing called life, it does have a physical finish, but I don't think it has a spiritual finish. That's just me. That's how I believe. And I think that the only limitation that we have while we're here on this planet is what we put on ourselves. Sometimes people will go, "Oh, that's too outrageous. I can't think that big." Well, here's the deal. I didn't want to get into voices for cartoons. I didn't want to be an actor. I want to play a specific character. And by the way, Alicyn, I've had to re-audition for this freaking character at least a dozen times. I just recently auditioned for him again. While I've been doing several projects, I
hope you booked it.
Well, the one that I auditioned for, I did because it was a pilot that we recorded. There will be more. I don't own these characters. I do not own these characters.
Yeah.
And there will be more. And that's showbiz.
Yeah. Man, that fires me up though. It's like just the reaffirming of what we all know in our hearts and in our guts, that, this is it. There is no dress rehearsal. You might as well just do it. You might as well just put yourself out there.
I just wake up every day and go, what do I have to lose? The worst thing you're going to hear is no.
Yep. So, just prep yourself tell yourself no, and then no, yes, no, yes.
Yeah.
Just a word.
Yeah.
So what was it like then? You first did Porky and Tiny Toons Adventures, is that correct?
Correct. That was the first Porky and Tweety in Tiny
Spielberg. So Porky and Tweety, and like working on this, that show was huge. What was that like when you finally made that dream come true?
Multifaceted. The first session I did, I was sitting next to June Foray. And June Foray, I'd known since I was 14 because I met her at an animation festival and said I want to do voices for cartoons, and we just stayed in touch. And I'm doing Tweety and she's doing Granny. And it was kind of like the first thing they did after Mel Blanc died. The Looney Tunes characters were only a part of this show early on. They didn't really highlight them that much as the show got older. I don't know this for a fact, but my gut tells me if the Tiny Toon characters had not taken off, they could have just made it another Bugs Bunny show. Mm-hmm. But the Tiny Toon characters took off. It was genius writing. Mm-hmm. And then, it spun off Pinky and the Brain. It was superb. I was actually hired after they had brought in Noel Blanc, Mel Blanc's son, to record some episodes.
For Porky and Tweety?
At least for Porky.
Oh, wow.
And his dad's dying wish was that his son take over. And people to this day think his son is doing these characters. Obviously, they don't look at credits. But he was his dad passed away thinking his son was taking over, which is the way it should be. But he was not what they wanted. Mm-hmm. So I had to go in and dub him. Now it was difficult because his Porky was sped up. Mel Blanc's Porky was sped up. Mine not so much. and he stuttered in places I wouldn't, so I had to match sync because it was already produced. And I didn't think they'd ever hire me again because it was a very difficult sync. It was a very difficult match, but I did it. I think 2 or 3 of the episodes were him, and then the first one I did was me. So that probably was sort of like an audition to get me approved for that particular project. But it was cool. You know, June Foray, she was like 4'0", and I did a Take Us Tweety, and we had these partitions between us. We were at a studio. I forget which studio we were at. But she kind of stood on a chair and looked over the top, and she looked down at me and she goes, "Oh, Bob, I swear it was Mel." Now that was her way of being nice to me, but it was like she knew I was terrified. It was just a very, very frightening experience. But no, she was adorable, and it was fun. And you know, every time you work, it's your last job.
Yeah.
So that was my last time doing Porky Pig until they hired me, or Tweety, until they hired me to do the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And I think we did a whole bunch of commercials. Oh, you know what it was? That kind of launched the characters again was the Nike commercials for the Air Jordan commercials. Which, can I tell that story?
Yeah.
Can I tell a story about that? Am I talking too much, Alicyn?
No.
Okay. All right. I just want you to know I'm even having a little gin on the rocks, and you think it was.
Oh, I was gonna ask if you wanted to have a drink.
I know. You don't have to ask. It's COVID. Are you kidding? So I had to audition for the first Air Jordan spot, which was a Super Bowl spot, and
so fun.
I happened to have laryngitis that day. And I get to the session, and I'm talking like this. And I just like, guys, I'm so sorry. It was a cold. It was just a cold. Well, the ad agency interpreted that as I'd lost the ability to do the character. And a few weeks later, my agent at the time calls me up, and she says they're holding auditions again for Porky Pig. I said, what do we do? She said, I'm going to have you audition under an assumed name and see what happens. And I said, okay. So I auditioned.
Wow, that's a ballsy move.
Well, welcome to my world. Welcome to my world of ballsy. And I auditioned, and I got the job. And I said, what's going to happen when I walk in? She goes, I don't know. That's your moment. So it turned out fine. And then we did another spot, and it eventually became the movie Space Jam, which I also had to audition for. So it's just welcome to my world, people. And you just have to audition.
So was it the same producers? Were they like,
No.
Okay.
It's never the same producers.
Yeah.
It's never the same producers. And Space Jam was lots of auditions. I've told this story before, but for my very last audition, it was down to about 4 or 5 of us. We're at LA Studios, and they handed out Shakespeare as for the audition, because they figured anybody who's a good mimic can say, "What's up, Doc?" That's all.
Yeah.
But if you can do Hamlet as a Looney Tune and still play that character. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Because I could do this in my sleep. And I'm looking at the other people and they're like freaking out. And I'm like, I think I got this. So I knew I was going to nail it.
Can you do a little for us?
Oh my goodness.
To me, and the opposite. That is the question, folks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That just made my day. Somebody's asking, did Candy Milo audition? Who did Candy play on Tiny Toons?
Candy started playing Granny after June Foray.
Oh, okay.
And she and Witch Hazel, and she is brilliant. She's so good. Yeah, June Foray was Granny in Space Jam.
Oh, and they're redoing Space Jam. Do you have any information about that?
From what I understand, that is absolutely accurate.
Cool. We'll leave it at that.
There we go.
Let's see. Oh yeah. So the new Looney Tunes on HBO Max.
Well, I got to correct you. There is the Looney Tunes show.
Short.
There is the new Looney Tunes, which is on Cartoon Network, and what we're doing is called Looney Tunes Cartoons.
Looney Tunes cartoons.
And trust me, I get confused too. But Looney Tunes cartoons on HBO Max.
Those are the shorts, right?
Correct.
Okay, and another friend of mine is boarding for that show. So how's it been working on that? You working with Eric Bauza?
It is without a doubt the most classic Looney Tunes project I've ever worked on. The boards are phenomenal. The writing, the music, it's full orchestras.
Oh, wow.
And we're doing over 200 of them, and I think they've only launched like 20. So they're going to be on HBO Max for a very long time. We're still working on them. I've been working on them for a few years now, and they are just a joy to work on.
Aw, yeah. Yeah, so has Porky evolved at all, or is he exactly the same as when he first came out of your mouth?
It's a great question. So the references we all have for these classic characters stop when they stop making them in the classic studio. So the Looney Tunes department, animation department, shut down in the 60s. Anything else that Mel Blanc did would be a TV special or a compilation feature. But the references that we have kind of stopped when Mel Blanc stopped. And Mel Blanc passed away in 89. The short stopped in the 60s. So today, they're classic. It looks like a Looney Tunes from 1940s Bob Clampett, Tex Avery. Mm-hmm. But there are Uber drivers, there are cell phones, there are contemporary references that we didn't have back then. People have to understand that when they're watching an old-fashioned Looney Tunes from the 30s and 40s and 50s, those were contemporary back then. The pop culture references were contemporary back then. Today, it's a history lesson. So what we have to do is to keep the integrity of the characters while, how do I say this? Organically presenting them in today's world.
Which, I mean, the thematically and the humanity is still all the same. Humanity, anonymity is all the same, but then just the devices and sort of the story, good story is a good story, which is why they hold up so well. But
well, I will tell you that the original Looney Tunes, the music was a character. The sound effects were characters. Some of the issues I've had with some of the stuff we've done since Tiny Toons, I'm not including Tiny Toons in this, but I'm just saying other things. They felt very Saturday morning, too dialogue heavy. And a lot of the wonderful comedy that came from the Looney Tunes didn't have a line of dialogue. It was pantomime to wonderful musical scores. They honor that with these cartoons. I mean, some of our shorts, which might be 5-6 minutes, might be 8 pages, where in the past it might have been 40 pages because they were just very dialogue heavy, because that's what cartoons are today. These really honor. It was called Termite Terrace. If people watching this don't know what that means, Google Termite Terrace. This was the cartoon department at Warner Brothers back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Termite Terrace?
Termite Terrace. And by the way, it's called Termite Terrace because it was a crappy building that had termites.
That's California, though, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Every building.
And the building still exists. I believe it's Van Ness and Sunset. If you Google Termite Terrace, the picture of it just drives straight down Van Ness on the right-hand side. It's KTTV. It's that.
Oh, yeah.
That used to be Warner Brothers, and the facade of Termite Terrace is still there.
I feel like we need to shoot down there like a live action thing or something.
There we go. I like that.
I'll think about it. Oh, I did want to ask, speaking of locations, where was Dawes's, this is taking it back, but where was Dawes's class? What studio was it in?
In his guest house. He had a cute little house in Beverly Hills, right off of Wilshire Boulevard. And he had a guest house. And you walked into his guest house, you walked down the driveway into his guest house, he had a big long table, and thousands and thousands of animation cells and stuffed animals, and just his entire career. There was a puppet show back in the 50s called Time for Beanie and Cecil, and he had the original Beanie puppet. And he used to serve the exact same package of butter cookies every week, and none of us ever touched them because they were probably 5 years old when I first started studying with him. And he was very sweet to put them out, but you don't touch Dawes's butter cookies. Or if there's a new person, you're like,
here's the tip: bring your own
yeah,
cookie.
yeah.
BYOC. So your first job was in 82. You've been studying the business even longer than that. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in our industry?
Well, COVID brought the biggest. When animation, I mean, when COVID hit, animation was not recorded at home. Other genres of voiceover were.
Yeah.
But we were ensemble for episodic TV. And even though an animated feature wasn't necessarily ensemble, you would go to Disney, you would go to Fox, you would go to Sony. And today, you know, just to stay alive, and you know as well as I do, within 2 weeks, in March of last year, we took our little, and I'll show people, that's my booth right there. That's the autograph that Mel Blanc gave me.
Can you
when
pan
I
a
met
little
him.
bit over, get a little bit more so we can see the edge? Okay, just so we can see the clearly defined room.
I don't know what you can see, but that's that sign
That a
above
hamburger?
the window. That's the autograph that Mel Blanc gave me when I crashed the recording session. I had it blown up. It wasn't that big, but that's that. Yeah, I spend 8 hours a day in that little booth, and you know, it's every job is different. Sometimes they want it just recorded on your Twisted Wave and send them a file, and sometimes it's Source Connect, and you know but we're working from home. That's the biggest difference. But I'll tell you another big difference. When I broke into animation voiceover, which was in 1982, it was close to impossible to break in. There weren't a lot of cartoons. There were 3 networks doing Saturday morning cartoons. That was it. Disney might have done an animated feature every 5 to 7 years, if that. Cut to today. We have 24/7 animation networks. We have streaming cartoons. We have primetime cartoons. Every major motion picture studio has a thriving animation department. We have games. We have new media. There have never been more content, animation content, in the history of the entertainment industry than today. That's the biggest difference.
And never been as many voice actors either, right?
Kind of. There haven't been as many jobs. There haven't been as many opportunities, but the cream floats to the top. You know, people keep asking me, well, with COVID and home studios, do I think animation is going to go outside of LA? The answer is perhaps. I think as of right now, they're going to stick with their tried and true. I mean, the industry was so patient, and they held everybody's hand as we got our home studios up to speed. Now that we've got them up to speed, and all the studios and the casting directors keep track, this actor has something that is as good or better than anywhere else we can go. This one has a closet and it needs some insulation, and everything in between.
Yeah.
Risking going to somebody in New York when the session starts at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in LA, that's 6 o'clock at night. Are they going to risk the actors going to want to be available? There's enough actors to choose from here.
Yeah.
I think eventually it'll open up a little bit more and become more mainstream. Right now, they are celebrating that they kept going during COVID and kind of didn't skip a beat. But opening it up to the rest of the world as a mainstream thing, not yet, but perhaps sometime.
Yeah, I agree with you. Katie Lee was saying how when she first worked on Gummy Bears, I think it was Gummy Bears, when Rusey came up to her, I think she was like auditing a session, and she was like, come on in, there's enough room for everybody. And that was sort of the attitude back then. And now it's like, it seems that there's a ton of content, but just a lot more voice actors. It's sort of hard to know everybody in the business, whereas everybody used to go to the same parties and stuff. I think.
Well, we also your first round of auditions was at Hanna-Barbera, or Deke, or you'd go to LA Studios for whatever the studio was, or the animation studio. I will say this: my generation was the most generous. Rusey was absolutely right. Our attitude was there's room for everybody. And if you met somebody at an audition or a session, the first thing you're going to do is call your agent and say, you've got to meet them and sign them before somebody else does. It is still that way. You don't go after somebody else's territory. It's a respectful group of people. The newer generation, because of the distance of the internet and because of the distance that is voiceover today, I don't think they quite understand that kind of integrity and respect for your fellow actors. I don't think. On the other hand, they hold auditions every single day because they're always looking for the next great thing. If they listen, Alicyn, you know as well as I do, they, without holding an audition, they could call you, me, Debbie Derryberry, Candy Milo, Jess Harnell, Rob Paulson, D. Bradley Baker, Billy West, and have it really, really well cast. But who else is out there? What else can they do? Because they want to find the next great thing.
Yeah. Isn't that what makes it fun? Is every day is like pulling a lottery ticket.
And my very first job was a cartoon called Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And I was sandwiched in between Frank Welker and Michael Bell. And as far as I was concerned, it was God and Jesus. And I'm like, I don't belong here. I don't know what it is that got me here, but I was terrified. And before we went up to the mic, I said to Frank Welker, I'm terrified. And he goes, oh my God, you're going to be great. And every take out of my mouth, he went like this.
Aww.
And I never forgot that. I never forgot that. He put me at ease. And I literally was almost crying. He was so generous in his heart to me for it, because I was terrified and I was terrible. I've seen clips of it online. Oh, it's horrible. I am acting really bad. It's just crap all of it.
Hey, we all gotta start somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Peyton Snay, who just shouted that out.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Thanks for
It's
showing.
the birthday, you think, from another world, you.
That's an old Porky Pig line from a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Oh, personal shout out.
There you go.
So you worked on, so many shows that I loved, growing up. Spider-Man. I do remember watching some of that. What about Duck Dodgers? You were nominated for, there were 2 Emmys from that? Or was it 3?
I think I was nominated for 1 Emmy for Duck Dodgers and then 2 for the Looney Tunes show.
2 for Looney Tunes, prime time. Yeah.
But Duck Dodgers was my first.
Yeah. Probably a lot of Duck. Give us some hearts, you guys, if there's any Duck Dodgers fans in there. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Ryan Hefe's daughter just binge watched the whole series.
Oh my God. Hi, Ryan's daughter. That's
Hi,
so cool. Hey. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
You just gave Bob 10 cents at least.
There you go. Well, not quite 10, maybe 2.5.
1/10 of a
There you go.
cent. Yeah. So what was it like working on that show?
Duck Dodgers? Duck Dodgers was, well, I'll tell you a little story that led to Duck Dodgers.
Ooh.
There was a movie called Looney Tunes Back in Action. And they were doing a handful of shorts. I think they were going to release theatrically a short a month until they released the movie. And they brought in this...
Theatrically?
Theatrically.
So opening before movies?
Exactly.
Like old school. Okay.
And they brought in a producer who was taking over the Looney Tunes franchise. And I'm not a prude, but this producer had written things that I just didn't think the Looney Tunes should ever do. He wanted to totally change the way I played Porky Pig, and I didn't think it sounded good. And I'm not the kind of actor who argues with a director. I'm happy to do a crappy direction anytime you want.
Yep.
But this was going against the integrity of the characters. And I didn't argue with him. I just questioned him. I'm like, you can't say this. This isn't even PG-13. This is bordering on R. And he goes, they pushed the envelope back then in the old days, but there was only so far. A month of this, I went to my agent after a session. Are we still rolling? Oh, yeah, because I saw you were like circling.
Yeah, press for a sec.
I went to my agent's office after a session and I said, listen, if this is the direction they want to take these characters, I think I want to quit. And without looking up from whatever he was writing on, like an agent can do, he says, well, you can't quit because they just fired you. And I went, oh, and then I was pissed because I was okay when I was quitting, but I was pissed that they fired me.
Oh.
And I was told that this guy was taking over the franchise and this was the direction the characters were going to go. And I thought, you know what? At the time, I'd been doing the character, I think, for 12 years. And I said, well, those are 12 great years. I cannot complain. I got to meet my goal, and I should be grateful. I think people need to embrace gratitude, because I could have walked away from that saying, oh, my God, that's the end of everything. No, I just was so grateful for those 12 years. Okay, well, those shorts never saw the light of day because evidently one executive got wind of them and just shelved the whole thing. And then a few months later, I get a call from Spike Brandt and Tony Cervoni, who had worked on the original Space Jam. And they said, we're doing Duck Dodgers as a TV series. Well, okay, so I'm going to go back a little bit further. After we did Space Jam, we did a sizzle reel, a fake trailer for a Duck Dodgers feature film. I played Dodgers. Cadet wasn't in it. I played Dodgers and Marvin because I had played Marvin in the original Space Jam. And that became the series Duck Dodgers. And they called me up and they said, you want to come to the studio and take a look at some of our designs and what we're thinking as far as the story? And I said, I was fired. And they said, oh, yeah, but not as far as we're concerned, because I didn't realize fired from one could mean hired for another. I had no idea. So
not with all that auditioning.
So long story short, that's kind of what happened with Duck Dodgers. And it was 3 seasons of some of the finest writing and animation I've ever done.
Wow. That's amazing. From the ashes, like a phoenix, he rose.
People are getting a lot of behind the scenes stories that a lot of them I don't think I've told. So yeah, there you go.
I haven't heard. Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard most of these stories. Yeah, Duck Dodgers. Also, I mean, I think I didn't realize this until I was in your class that you were Wembley Fraggle on the Fraggles.
On the cartoon version of Fraggle Rock.
The cartoon version of Fraggle Rock.
Not the version, but the cartoon version.
Right, and I remember you there were some sides we were reading from. So can you do that voice for us?
Oh boy, Gobo, Fraggle Rock is a really weird place. How come these people have their hands up our butts? Because we're puppets. I'll tell you a funny story about that.
Yeah.
I auditioned for every character except for Wembley.
Did they were you choosing the sides, or they were like, your agent was like, Bob?
Yeah, I auditioned in my agent's office, and I didn't think, so it was based on an existing property that was on HBO. And they gave us reference tapes, and Steve Whitmore, I think, was the voice of Wembley. And I was like, I can't get my voice that high and raspy. It had a kind of a just a raspy voice. And I get to I'm called back for Wembley. And I said to my agent, I didn't read for Wembley. And she said, look, I'm I'm the order taker. So I go into the callback, and it was a casting director named Stu Rosen. And he smoked, and he talked like this. And I said, Stu, I didn't read for Wembley. He goes, yeah, I know, but I want to hear you read it. and I said, I can't do that voice. And he's like, give it a try. And I said, Stu, I thought I did a great Gobo. I thought I did a great Boober. And he's calling me Bergie. He went, Bergie, Henson wants to hear your Wembley. I want to hear your Wembley. Do Wembley. I went, okay. And I did. Here's what he told me. They didn't want to make the character exactly like the original because they thought that was a little too scary for little kids on Saturday morning. So they wanted to cuten them up a little bit. And I had done something for Stu, I think it was a Candyland something or other, where I played Mr. Mint.
Candyland.
Mr. Mint sort of sounded like this, and he goes, do the mint thing, but make him cuter. So I did the mint thing, and I made him cuter. So that's kind of that's how that happened.
And then you said, thanks, Jim, for believing.
Oh, please listen. When Jim Henson says give it a shot, you give it a shot.
You give it a shot.
That's right.
Words to live by.
That's right.
Trying to think. Star Wars, you were also Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars video game franchise circa 2001.
No, I've been doing it for 20 something years. So lots of games.
All games.
Robot Chicken. I just did a Robot Chicken. We just did another one. And what's cool now is that I did Luke from the most recent film. So he's older Luke. Mark's voice has gotten a little raspy over the years. He's a God with a gray beard and the little hood and the look, like little monk look. He's just a little bit more leather and weathered. But that's the look I'm doing right now for that.
Ooh, I love it. It's like aged up a little bit. Yeah, how's that been in voicing such an iconic character?
It's been fun. I just told this story on another podcast. When that audition popped up, I told my agent, I can't do Mark Hamill. And she said, you want to pass? I said, yeah, I want to pass. And she calls me back and she said, they still want to see you. And I walked into the audition. It was at Studiopolis in Studio City. And I walked in and I said, I can't do Mark Hamill. And they said, don't do Mark Hamill, do Luke Skywalker. And I went, oh. And they said, your voice is kind of similar to Mark's. And I said, guys, I'm not that learned. I'm not that educated on the Star Wars universe. And so they had to kind of fill me in that, the first 3 films, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, well, especially New Hope. Luke was kind of a whiny character. He just had this, he was kind of innocent, but he was just kind of naivete, but kind of a brat. He was a little bratty. And then one film later, all of a sudden, he pulls a ship out of the muck, and he gets the Force, and he gets a little bit more centered, and he gets a little more focused. And by the 3rd film, he's still young, but the Force is with him. So they kind of educated me on the character,
which basically sounds like your bio.
Kinda.
You are Luke Skywalker.
Well, no, he is. Mark is.
Mark is, but
before I accepted that first job, I made my agent call his agent just to make sure he didn't want the job. Because again, I don't believe in treading on somebody else's property. You got to respect. This is their job. Now, if for whatever reason they don't want it, and he didn't want it, he had been it was the time when he was trying to distance himself a little bit from that character. He did go back, but I wasn't going to take it if he what if he didn't know they were holding auditions and he really wanted this part? I'm not going to take it from him. So turned out he didn't want it, and I didn't have his blessing. I just had his, I don't want that. So there we go.
Wow. Yeah. That was like, I'm always reminded of when the Simpsons actors were striking and none of the voice actors would audition.
Nope. In fact, it's happened a few times, or the Futurama. Look, usually it's a contract negotiation. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that the studio, the network, those who own the property make a heck of a lot of money than the highest amount any actor is asking for. So out of respect, you don't make that your opportunity to break into the business. Because if the planets align, you will be in that position one day and you won't want your fellow actors to do that as well.
Yeah.
So, out of respect, you sit this one out. And I had so many people say, hey, will you coach me on Bart? I'm like, no, I won't. No, sorry, not gonna do it.
Leave that one to Nancy, who has a new masterclass, by the way.
She does indeed. Yeah, she does indeed. And I've known Nancy Cartwright, oh my God.
Was she in your class?
Off and on. I mean, because, you would go, it was Wednesday nights, you would go when you could. But Nancy was just corresponding with Dawes from Ohio for years, way before she came out here.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I read her book. It's a good read, too.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, the Reap said, just got into the Star Wars universe with Star Wars Squadrons. Yay! Yes, Chris has some credit, Bob. Don't forget, guys, if you have questions, go ahead and type them into the box. And then, oh my God, look what time it is already. Jeez.
I know, right?
Do you have a heart out? I don't want to.
I don't. I'm good.
Okay.
I just got a note back from a casting director I worked with today. Yes, I will. I'm sorry. I just saw a text come up from because I finished before we did this. I'm like, oh, did I forget to do something? It's just a little.
You did attach files.
Hello, thank you.
Thanks for your great work. Or
Hopefully.
yeah, so I was curious. We talked a little bit about COVID, and everybody's changing gears, recording at home. Was that tough for you because you are used to recording ensemble more? Has it been hard to ride your own levels and stuff like that?
Yeah, so this is me technically. This is what
Yeah.
I know. On a light switch, that's on, that's off, that's it. That's all I know.
Yeah.
So I'm really good with Source Connect now. I'm really good with Twisted Wave. It's those anomaly jobs where all of a sudden they want to record in a way you didn't know could be done.
Yeah.
Or it's a studio where they've already recorded you, but they want to do it to test you again. So you know what the actor's nightmare is, Alicyn? When you're like on stage doing a play, but you don't know what play you're doing.
Or you're naked. Yeah, you have
naked,
to memorize the lines,
yeah, but
and you're naked.
So that's called, for people watch this, that's called the actor's nightmare. My actor's nightmare now is finishing the greatest voiceover session of my career, coming out to my computer here and realizing I didn't push record. That is my actor's nightmare today.
Totally. Totally. My actor's nightmare is blue jeans. Zoom, fine. Source Connect. I don't think you want to connect with blue jeans.
Have you done voiceover on blue jeans?
I did have a session on blue jeans, and we sound checked on Zoom, and everything was great. And then I have a really nice setup, but for some reason, the levels for them to hear me, they weren't doing Source Connect. I was recording on my end. Were so low that it took like 45 minutes to figure it out.
It was their fault, not yours.
It was their fault, but it felt like my fault because we had sound checked on Zoom. So it was like, they schedule so much. They schedule like 2 hours. And if it's just you recording these days, it usually goes a lot quicker. But we were glad for the extra time. I was like, oh, God.
Well, what I've realized is everybody is patient. Most of the engineers are beyond hand-holdy. The voice directors are phenomenal. But I'm not going into work. I don't care if everybody gets a vaccine tomorrow. This works. I'm gonna do this.
Okay, there you are.
Oh, there you are. Bottom line is, it works. We're fine, and we're going to continue doing this for quite some time.
Yeah, I do miss the connection, though. Boy, I miss it.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Have you gone to any?
And I won't.
Mm-hmm.
I won't do it. I won't do it. I got to tell you, I was part of the committee that approved the voiceover COVID safety agreement, and I was the only person on that committee that voted no. I said, I'm sorry that you can't prove any of this, and it's not punitive. I mean, it's the honor system that everything is up to par. We don't know what anybody at a studio is doing outside that studio, and if a voice actor gets sick, is there any insurance? If a voice actor dies, is there any insurance for their family? And as long as we can continue working from our home, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I did not play Jerry in the Tom and Jerry movie. Do not believe IMDb.
I saw that too.
Is so full of crud.
Uncredited.
No, half of my career isn't on there, and 25% of those are lies. Or I don't know. Or it's a fan-based website. I've gotten work because of that information that isn't true. But no, I did not do Tom and Jerry. But I would have liked to have done Tom and Jerry.
No.
I also didn't do Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but I've gotten work from that wrong credit on IMDb.
Oh, that's convenient.
Oh, it's lovely. Oh, no, you know what happens, Alicyn, when you go to the session? Do that voice you did on Sabrina. And I'm like, do you have a reference? Oh, yeah, pull that up. And I'll hear the reference. I'm like, I think I can kind of do that. I can kind of do that. Okay. But, oh, yeesh. No, never even auditioned for it.
Yeah, that's so funny. I'm going to start to wrap this up because
Sure.
I want to be respectful of everybody's time. But I had a non-work question, and I'm just curious about what are some of your passions and inspirations outside of work? Also, my fire alarm battery needs to be pushed. It's I need to
Oh,
test
go
it.
through your
So.
thing. This is what happens with live broadcasts. So some of my passions outside of work.
Da, 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 da.
Oh, look at you. Oh my God.
It's
People, this is a
very high.
live broadcast.
There we go, folks. That's how it's done.
And I didn't even hear it.
Yeah, it was beeping.
All right.
Pretty annoying.
Well, I love wine tasting.
Wine tasting, yeah.
I'm a total foodie, but I also eat low carb keto. So I love to cook. I love to find recipes I like and making them low carb. I used to be a volunteer Big Brother for about 25 years, and haven't done that for a while. And I'm really active at the Television Academy. I'm on their board of governors. I love TV. I'm a couch potato. Give me a remote and a couch and a glass of wine, and my DVR is bloated. I love all things television, and I love working on behalf of actors at the TV Academy.
That's so fun. How did you get involved in that? You just sought it out, or did somebody mentor you?
I joined the TV Academy in 1994. I was at some audition, and I found out I qualified to join. And I joined with the goal to one day be on their board of governors. And it took me years. But I just went to everything, and I met the right people, and I just, put myself out there, and eventually was asked to be on this committee, and got to the point where I was on the Performers Executive Committee, where they had this governor was termed out. They nominated me, and the members elected me to my first year as a governor. My co-governor was an actress named Kathy Houston. And if people have watched Desperate Housewives years ago, she was the old cranky neighbor. She was also on The West Wing. And Kathy passed away 6 months into my first term from cancer. And she was a sweet, sweet, dear, dear friend of mine. And I brought in Lily Tomlin to be her replacement. So Lily and I became friends, and she was my co-governor for 5 years. And it's a pleasure. Basically, what we do is we represent television actors, and we oversee the Emmys if they need anything refreshing or adjusting for as far as performers are concerned. TV's changing hourly. It's not 3 networks or in a piece of furniture in your bedroom anymore. I'm talking on a phone right now, which this is, for all intents and purposes, a TV broadcast. So we're honoring the history and legacy of television, and we are preserving and looking forward to the future and advancements of broadcast TV.
That's amazing. And how can other actors get involved? Is that invited
to get involved if you want to be a member of the performers peer group, which is what voiceover is a part of. You need there's 2 kinds of memberships. There's associate and active. To be an active member, you need 10 credits over the last 4 years, 5 of which must be from traditional broadcast TV, which is, ABC, NBC, CBS, Netflix, etc. The other 5 credits can be from new media. But when it comes to voiceover, it can be cartoons, it can be commercials, it can be narration.
Commercials, wow.
Yeah. But if you've been actively pursuing your acting career, your voiceover career for at least a couple of years, and you've got at least 1 broadcast credit, you can join as an associate. The only thing you can't do as an associate is vote for the Emmys, but you can take part in all the other activities, events. We have tons and tons and tons of events, and then you can earn as you build your credits. If people think they qualify or they want more information, they can email me, and I can send them all the information.
Cool. And what kind of wine is your favorite?
Liquid. I mean, I will have moments where I want sparkling, and I'll have moments when I want Riesling because it's kind of sweet. I'll have moments where I want Sauv Blanc, and I'm going for a cab. I'm not picky. In fact, I'm also not a snob. I've found phenomenal $5 bottles of wine at Trader Joe's, and I found horrible $300 bottles at the Fruit place. So
that must be a bummer.
I like what I like.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, well, I'm going to take a couple questions from the audience. We did actually, fortunately, cover quite a bit of these. Have you ever used a character voice in the drive-through to mess with people?
Somebody either knows this story or it's just a coincidental question.
It's coming from Jim Tasker. I don't know if you know him. He's one of the big trailer voice actors.
Okay. So right after 9/11, a couple of friends and I, we wanted a late night Krispy Kreme. It was before I was eating low carb. and we got to the drive-through, and this lady says, "May I take your order?" And I said, "Give me a minute. I haven't decided yet." And this guy's voice came on and said, "Let me know when you're ready to order." And I said, "Ooh, you changed your voice." And then she came on again and said, "Yes, I did. Now you change yours." And I looked at my friends and I went, "All right." So I ordered a dozen glazed donuts, like Porky Pig. And there's a long pause, and she says, "Please pull up to the second window." And I pull up to the second window, and she hands me 3 dozen donuts. And I said, "I think you misunderstood what I said." And she said, "No, I understood everything you said. We haven't laughed since 9/11. Take these, they're on the house." And I looked at my friends and I said, "Well, let's go to a Porsche dealer next." So that was the only time I've ever used Porky Pig at a drive-thru.
Wow. Might be about time to pull that back out.
There you go.
Somebody's asking, you spend, on average, you say you spend 8 hours a day auditioning or in sessions. What do you mentally do to prepare for the next session, especially when you don't have traffic time to prep?
You don't do anything to prepare. You listen, I'm with an agent who might send me copy throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
I see the email, I print up the copy, I push record, I go in the booth, and I do it. You know,
And you
voiceover isn't cold reading, it's frozen reading. There is no preparation. You just do it. And you know you're ready to make that demo and pursue the agent and go out there and give this a shot when what I just said is a breeze. This has to be instinct. This has to be as organic and easy without thinking as it is to brush your teeth. Mm-hmm. You don't think about what's the tube, what's the brush, what's the stringy stuff, how do I use it? You do it every day. Same with voiceover. If it's not that instinctual, if it's not that organic, just to look at the copy and come up with something interesting and original, you're not ready to pursue. But the business will always be there. So there's no rush. Just get to that point. Well, guys, it took years to get to that point.
What percentage of the time would you say your gut instinct or your first instinct is the right one or the one that you end up going with?
90. Mm-hmm. 90% is my gut is what, and there are times like with a commercial, I don't look at the specs. I look at the dialogue. Mm-hmm. Look, they're not looking for somebody to be what they're not. They're looking for someone to be, everything says conversational today. So how do you make a conversation when it's not written conversationally? Well, for me, when I do not like to use contractions in my natural everyday talk, which is I do not like contractions. That's how I emphasize. For some reason, I've always talked that way. So if I see a contraction in a piece of copy, and it says, "Don't buy this until you see that," I'm going to say, "Do not buy this until you see that," because that's going to make it more me.
Yep. I kind of do the opposite usually.
You see, do not, make it don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that is making it Alicyn. This is making it Bob. Yep. This is making it your own. And look, great actors can do this reading the world's worst copy. But you've got to get to that point where you're ready to do this.
Fantastic. Jeff is asking how COVID has changed the way you teach. And I know you're doing more one-on-ones, so maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Well, before COVID, my January class, I only did 3 classes a year. And my January class ended it was finished because of COVID. That class had a 4-year wait list when it ended. And I never taught. I told you this the other day. I never taught on Zoom or online because I
kept asking. I was like, "You doing any privates?"
And I wasn't because I just didn't think it was necessary. I didn't think it was satisfying. I didn't think I could do it well. And in June of last year, I had people who were starving just to keep their chops honed and their their creative juice is flowing. So I thought, I'll give it a shot. And I was like, I like this. I can actually get more from an actor one-on-one than I can with a workshop. So I started putting it out there, guys, if you're interested. And I've got a wait list now for my privates. So I'm booked through June right now. So that's how I'm doing it. And I don't know if I'm going to go back to workshops. I don't know. I was getting a little burnt out on the classes, and I look forward to the private coaching. I only have time for about 2 a week. You got me on a good window, because I rarely have a window, and you had an audition, you wanted to coach. That's what I do. I put people in a queue, but if they have an audition, if it works in my schedule, I will bump them. But yeah, I'm digging it. It's fun.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. If anybody's interested, reach Bob through his website, bobbergen.com, and sign up for the wait list.
There you go.
Bob, I don't want to keep you any longer. Usually we just go an hour, but this has been so informative, so entertaining, and so lovely.
It was fun.
You're so generous with your time.
Let this live on your page for a while, because people are asking questions I already talked about.
Yes. So if anybody missed the top half, I'm going to go right now, actually, and post this to IGTV. I'll share it in my stories. I'll tag Bob in case he wants to share it. And thanks for tuning in, you guys. If this is your first time watching the show, tune in next week. We're going to be on Thursday. Craig Bartlett, the creator of Hey Arnold and Dinosaur Train, is going to be on the show. So I'm really excited. Craig was one of our first guests back when Alicyn's Wonderland was a web series 10 years ago.
Wow.
So, this is going to be just like coming full circle. So I hope you guys tune in for that. And Bob, you're so generous with your time. You're an amazing wealth of knowledge, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. All right, guys, make sure that you're following Bob on Instagram if you're not already, because he's awesome. And Bob, we got to get you verified on Instagram. What the heck?
They won't do it.
Guys,
I've tried. I
tweet them out or something.
I really am me.
Yeah, I know. And you got spammed. Didn't somebody try and create a fake Bob Bergen account or something?
Oh, yeah. Somebody did try to do that. So, yeah, somebody did try to do that.
Yeah. So, yeah, you definitely.
I've tried over and over again. They won't do it. I don't know. I don't know what they need. I've given them IDs. I've given them blood. They don't want it.
You might want that blood bag. It's a little weird.
I know. Then I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm not me. I know, right? Right?
Well, it was lovely having you. Thank you so much. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. Oh, yeah, thank you, Jay. Jay knows how to tag it at the end. What would Porky say?
Oh, duh.
Yeah, that's all, folks.
Bye, guys. See you soon.